Hi, I'm Jeff Harold, Senior Pastor of New Beginnings Community Church of Washtenaw County. In part one of this series, we learned that the definition of systemic racism is the systematic distribution of resources, power, and opportunity in our society to the benefit of people who are white and the exclusion of people of color. And what makes this exclusion systemic is that it is codified in law. In July 1776, these most famous words were released to the world. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These words from the preamble to the Declaration of Independence, written by Thomas Jefferson, a Virginia slaveholder, symbolized the desire of the colonists to be free from British rule. But this freedom did not extend to all humans, particularly African slaves. The reality for African slaves was brutally different, and their bondage and captivity will be codified in the Constitution of this new nation to be known as the United States of America. Article 4, Section 2, Clause 3 of the U.S. Constitution states that no person held to service or labor in one state, under the laws thereof, escaping into another state, shall in consequence of any law or regulation therein be discharged from such service or labor, but shall be delivered up upon claim of the party to whom such service or labor may be due. In other words, it was not possible to run from slavery in one state to another state in the hope to remain free, because by federal law it was the duty of that state to return African slaves to their masters. And so in reality, in this newly independent nation, for African slaves who have been brought to this country in chains to work the land for free, their bondage continued. But that was not the end of their exploitation under this system of racism. The Three-Fifths Compromise was an agreement between delegates from the northern and southern states at the United States Constitutional Convention of 1787 that 3/5 of the slave population will be counted for determining direct taxation and representation in the House of Representatives. Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3 states that representatives and direct taxes shall be proportioned among the several states which may be included within this union according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years, and excluding Indians not taxed, 3/5 of all other persons. In other words, slaves were not to be seen as a whole person, but 3/5 of a person. This enabled the slave-holding states to gain power in the newly formed Congress by counting those people that were kept in forced servitude. Perhaps one of the most egregious examples of systemic racism in the United States was the 1857 Dred Scott decision. In Dred Scott v. Sanford, an African-American slave named Dred Scott had appealed to the Supreme Court in hopes of being granted his freedom based on his having been brought by his master to live in free territories. However, the Supreme Court ruled the persons of African descent could not be nor ever were intended to be citizens of the United States under the Constitution. In writing the opinion for the majority, then Chief Justice Roger B. Taney famously wrote, "In the opinion of the court, the legislation and histories of the times and the language used in the Declaration of Independence show that neither the class of persons who had been imported as slaves, nor their descendants, whether they had become free or not, were then acknowledged as part of the people, nor intended to be included in the general words used in that memorable instrument. They had for more than a century before been regarded as beings of an inferior race and altogether unfit to associate with the white race, either in social or political relations, and so far inferior that they had no rights which the white man was bound to respect, and that the Negro might justly and lawfully be reduced to slavery for his benefit. He was bought and sold and treated as an ordinary article of merchandise and trafficked whenever profit could be made of it. How impactful were the words of Chief Justice Taney? In a 2015 article in the Michigan Law Journal entitled, "Taney's Negroes, Dred Scott's Decision's Impact, Can the Court Unring the Bell?" attorney Samuel McCargo wrote, "Taney's 1856 opinion is, in no small measure, a significant contributor to the contemporary strife between blacks and whites. Our Supreme Court rang the bell and set in motion a level of racial tension that lingers and periodically explodes in our communities today. Countless institutions, groups, charities, and other well-intentioned segments of society have tried unsuccessfully to undo what the Supreme Court did in the Dred Scott case. But let there be no mistake, only the Supreme Court can unring its own bell. At this time, we must ask when, how, and in what manner can the court unring the Dred Scott bell?" The die was cast, and the attitudes, structures, and systems of racism will persist at every level of U.S. society to this very day.